Mr. Sandeep Khosla, Director General, Bombay Chamber, to please deliver the welcome address.
Very warm welcome to all of you for this very, very topical and important subject, REITs and tokenization, conceptualized by our committee head, who has left me here and gone all the way to London. So Ashit Kampani, who's also a board member, had to go there, and he said, Sandeep, will you do this welcome address on my behalf? So hopefully, you know, he will come back before India starts the second test match there. So, a small brief on the chamber. We are just 189-year-old. Later this evening, we celebrate our 189th AGM. And the chamber has been a pioneer in each and every aspect of industry's needs. So whatever comes new, we are at the forefront. I think somebody outside told me that, you do more on SME REITs than even the industry itself. So that's where Sanjay Dutt, our board member, has been pushing us to do as much as we can. Mr. Rao has been speaking to us so much on this particular subject. We had a round table in office, and then after that, another big session last year. So we continue to follow up on this and any other subject which comes up. This month of June has been very special for us. We've interacted with almost everyone. Our president last week was a part of a very small delegation which went to Cyprus along with the Prime Minister of India, Shri Modi. And we signed up with the Cyprus Chamber of Commerce to see as to how business can be increased. Before that, we worked with the Maharashtra government on something on the agriculture part where they did a hackathon. So Shivraj Singh Chauhan, the Honorable Union Minister of Agriculture, along with Shri Fadnavis and Ajit Pawar were both there. And Bombay Chamber did the entire jury of that particular entries of hackathon, people who had participated. Then we had, day before yesterday, Sri Satyajit Tripathi, the permanent member of IRDA, who came to our office to speak to people who were the distributors in the insurance segment. Today we have Mr. Rao, Mr. Bajpai with us. Thank you, sir, for coming here, who would impart their knowledge to us. And we had an MSME 3 days back where Uday Samant, the Maharashtra minister, was present and spoke to us about how the chamber can help in looking at all the MSMEs in Maharashtra. So Bombay Chamber does almost 110 to 120 events a year. Sometimes, as a chamber, so that we can maximize, utilize the high cost of the hotel, we do 3 events in a day. We finish taxation in the morning, SMEs tokenization right now, and the AGM in the evening, where we have the Niti Aayog CEO, Mr. Subramaniam, who would be a keynote speaker. So thank you all for coming here, and hopefully it will be a very, very interesting session. And for all those who are not members, please become a member of the Bombay Chamber. You can contribute to our progress as to what the chamber actually needs to do, especially for MSMEs today. And at the same time, there's so much of learning which the chamber can impart. So with that, I hand it over back to Priya. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Khosla, for such a warm welcome. Now I invite Mr. Sanjay Dutt, Director, Bombay Chamber, and MD and CEO, Tata Housing Development Company Limited, to please set the theme for today's conclave. Round of applause for him. Thank you.
Very, very good afternoon, and thank you, Sandeep. Bombay Chamber of Commerce indeed is an incredible platform. They've done more service to the industry than I can see any other industry body has done. I'll set the context with a little bit of background, if you permit me. I think real estate last decade can be described as supernova, and I'll tell you why. We started in 2000, FDI in real estate started in 2005, and since then we've got about $100 billion. Although in the initial 10 years, very little went away, or it just evaporated. But subsequently, it did make money and did reach many shores. And as a result, India remains one of the most attractive investment market. Transparency in the sector was always an issue, and that has improved substantially. So insolvency and bankruptcy code was a big step in the real estate sector. Real Estate Regulation Act was a big step. REITs was a tipping moment for us in the country, given the fact that our office market is about 750 million square feet and is about to become 1.3 billion square feet in next 5 to 6 years. We, on an average these days, doing about 80 million square feet of gross absorption in the country in 8 cities. If you add data centers and if you add warehousing logistics, and if you add senior and if you add flex co-working spaces and co-living, we're talking about 140 million square feet just in the commercial space. I'm not counting hospitality and I'm not counting shopping centers, etc. Those are, in addition, 30 to 40 million square feet. And, you know, so this is on the regulatory side, investment side. We're very fortunate that the government has really, if you go back since 2014, every year, this government has introduced something for the real estate sector, whether it was FDI, whether it was whatever, and now in last few years, we're very fortunate that SEBI, very respectable institute, and we have the privilege of listening to Mr. Rao shortly, engaged with the industry and rolled out REITs. And you know, the debate when the REITs were rolled out, the concern was that there are many countries in the world where the REITs failed. And there are very few countries in the world where the REITs succeeded. And I think the credit goes to SEBI, who have ensured that they've engaged with the stakeholders, and they rolled out policies that REITs are now doing extremely well. So I think we will have another 200 to 300 million square feet in addition to 200 million square feet that exist between 3 office REITs and 1 retail REIT, and 1 about to be listed, the largest yet to be listed. Then came the wave of SM REITs, and now we have a topic of tokenization. So how, you know, when we used to talk about real estate cycle, we used to talk about office or residential. One was always up and one was always down. But now we have so many segments to play with, and we have so many platforms to play with, and we're very fortunate that the government has come out with tokenization. This is necessary because real estate is an extremely complex subject. The central government dictates the regulatory ecosystem, but the jurisdiction on the land where the real estate is developed is a state subject. And very often, the governments at state and the center are very different. And that creates its own complexities that we are all familiar with. So it creates problems. But I think as a result of SM REITs, REITs, and now tokenization, you will find well-informed decision-making taken by professionals and making that opportunity available to every retail investor and be able to participate in a market which otherwise would be beyond their reach of investment scale and size and also even understanding. Just to give you a flavor, if you want to buy land, the first subject comes with city. Then comes the subject freehold or leasehold. Then comes the subject leasehold 60 years or 80 years or, so Nariman Point is 60 years, Bandra Kurla is 80 years, 40 plus 40, and the BMC gives you 33 plus 33, right? To make your life even more complicated, we can have series of approvals and investment decisions which will influence your decision of investing in real estate. Then comes the tax department and the GST department, and they'll make your life even more complicated. I think it's, the policies and the frameworks are designed to such a way that either the vested interest in real estate of those people flourishes, or we give birth to consulting industry. So I know there are many consultants in the forum. They largely benefit because we made it so complex. I think instruments like tokenization and SM REITs make investment easier because informed decision enables success and you get returns. So you can now distribute your investment portfolio in equity markets. In equity markets, you can actually have debt, REIT, or indeed pure equity if you want to do it and dabble on your own, or you can go for mutual funds. But in real estate, it was always only hard asset. And now this opportunity, given the size of investment and given the base of this country, which is so large, opens us a new frontier. So I'm Really excited to see how it goes. I know when I did my first real estate investments, it was daunting to do all the checks and balances. Now I'm looking forward to investing in these instruments so I can sip my coffee on some island and enjoy the investment managers manage the portfolios. And I have some of them already in the room, so looking forward to you. Thank you very much for your time, and I'm now handing it over for a lovely session. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Dutt, for this insightful words. Now I welcome our keynote speaker, Mr. J.N. Bajpai, former chairman LIC and SEBI on the dais, please. Please round of applause for our keynote speaker. Mr. J.N. Bajpai is a renowned business leader and a passionate writer. He served as the chairman of SEBI and the executive chairman of LIC. He has authored 5 books, including The Securities Market and A Game Changers Memo, and contributes regularly columns for Dainik Jagran, Mint, and Billion Press. Please be seated. Mr. Bajpai holds a master's degree in commerce and a law degree and has been honored with several prestigious awards, including the Outstanding Contribution to Finance Award from the Prime Minister of India and the Lifetime Achievement Award from BIMTech. Now I request Mr. Bajpai to please deliver the keynote address. Please round of applause for him.
Thank you very much for a very generous introduction. Basically, I happen to be now a free citizen of India, and I can read, write, and do whatever I like. Thanks, Bombay Chamber of Commerce Industry, to invite me, and in particular, Ashish Company. I know why he is missing here. In fact, you've all taken a very serious risk to invite a baby boomer generation guy to address the millennials, the X generation, the Z generation. Fortunately, I think Mr. Dutt had made a bit of a de-risking by I can see a few faces from millennials as well as Z generation. But anyway, it's up to you what you want to do out of it. Well, currently, the global environment is beset with serious geopolitical high-degree temperatures, social chaos, economic nationalism, technology disruptions, and environment catharsis. In such an environment, it is very difficult for nations today to find feet from the seriously burning global environment. Fortunately, there are some geographies, and India is one of those, and we are all fortunate to be Indians today, that India today stands, notwithstanding all this kind of environment, into very, very sound footing. And the reason is fundamentally because India has taken very, very serious steps to invest into the economy, into the nation's geography, and in the people of India. And also kept what I call it physical prudence. The situation for individuals is no different. Those of us who are not billionaires and millionaires have always to make sure that we are able to deal with our life and future in the same steady manner as India is dealing with it today. Recently, I met a young lady who had visited some of the European countries. And when she told that I am from India, some of the European friends told her, "Oh, you are so lucky. Your economy is doing so well. You have so much to do." Now, that's the kind of elevation that people in general get when you visit outside, because there's a kind of global, very, very low sentiment of the feeling about what's happening around. Now let me come back to the individuals. The similar situation in individual, and therefore, those of us who don't form part of that great elite have to make sure that we invest. And we also have physical prudence. But before I go forward, let's understand what exactly I was meaning by investment and physical prudence. When we invest, we sacrifice our today's consumption for tomorrow's consumption. Now, in case we sacrifice today's, let's say, X amount of consumption, and tomorrow I get X minus 2, then I'm a loser. And therefore, it is important for an individual to make sure that he invests his monies or his savings or his reduction of today's consumption into instruments which are not subjected to the very dangerous worm of inflation, real rate return. When I was working for SEBI as a full-time servant, and also in the National Pension Trust as the part-time, I was always feeling what are the options available to a common investor who is not a millionaire or a billionaire. How he can ward off this dangerous worm, and we found at that point in time that equity were the only options which delivered real rate of return. But equities, as you know, are subject to vagaries of the market, the global environment, the macro environment, and also the micro environmental industries. And therefore, when I used to work for SEBI, SEBI decided to start the process of introducing REITs. And those of you who have been like my generation or like Mr. Pramod Rao would know that these REITs regulations were first notified by SEBI in 2004. Unfortunately, probably the market was not ready, probably the processes were not ready, and it didn't take off so well. But nonetheless, subsequently I had the occasion to push it forward on the policy level once again, and I'm so glad it is rectified. Now that offers another opportunity. Similarly today, there is an opportunity because one of the asset class, and I think Mr. Sanjay Dutt was trying to convince us, the residential real estate. Can I have some water, please? Residential real estate has been off the radar. Even though it has been delivering consistently, significantly high real rate of returns. And the reasons have been two. Those, as I said, who can't afford a big size, big ticket investment cannot make benefit out of it. I know of several investment bankers are the market people, sorry, thank you, who used to shift their investment from equity to real estate and back to equity. But where does the common investor go? And therefore, it is important, and fortunately today, the technology makes it possible that we can have the benefit accruing even to common investor via the tokenization. Well, I don't have to tell you, you all know what tokenization is, but I look at it, and actually I wrote about it in the Mint newspaper, that let us look at the investment through tokenization in the residential real estate from the angle of an investor. And the angles of the investor are safety, liquidity, and return. Now, since the token will have an underlying physical asset, which is actual there, real there, and if you see the track record, at least in India, the real estate prices may have stagnated, but they've never gone down. And if there is an asset class which stands physically, and you have a small share, and that will be in token as you have an equity. For example, today you can have one entry in your NSDL account or a CDCL account, and you own that asset. This is one part of it. The second is, once they become traded, and like in equity, like in derivatives, like in other asset classes like REITs, you will have the liquidity too. Now, on the return part, you can easily ward off that worm of inflation, because real estate over a period of time has delivered real interest or real returns, which are inflation proof. And therefore, the new thought, which already been practiced elsewhere, should be promoted in India. Unfortunately, as I said, I was talking to someone while during the lunch, and I was saying probably one reason why this particular aspect has not taken place, because the pricing of housing still in India is not determinable as you can have determinable elsewhere. And therefore, some basic assumptions will have to be made and to be worked upon. But there is a real estate, there is a growth, and there is a possibility, and there is a technology. And there is a willingness. In fact, thanks to social media, when I used to work for SEBI, we had to organize a session for investor education in the Vigyan Bhavan, so that we could educate the people. And the idea of organizing Vigyan Bhavan was to give a national focus. Today, social media does all that. So today, a common investor is looking to shift from one instrument to another one. Couple of months back, I had written 2 articles on banking. And the reason was that the investment patterns in India is going a transformation. Since the investor education has spread around substantially, fixed rate returns, including in bank deposits, are at a discount. And banking industry today is in a catharsis. They can't raise adequate amount of low-cost deposits or liabilities to be able to lend. Now, coming back to the point I was making, that this particular asset class is now ready, technology is ready, the investors are ready, and so is the market ready. And I can see Pramod's presence here, that even the regulators are ready. In fact, I'm told IFSCA has already started that. And if that's the situation, I'm sure whatever else what is called a transitional issues or the formative issues are concerned can easily be addressed. Ladies and gentlemen, I am given to experimentation. And whenever and wherever I had an occasion to do, I had. And you people who are on the ground level must do that. Now, today's my entire experimentation is in the thinking and writing. And therefore, I thought, in fact, I met, thank you very much for organizing. I met a gentleman today, Mr. Desai. That meeting is very auspicious. And I had in fact forgotten about it. You know, today, Commodore Subhanshu Shukla is supposed to go into the space. 20 years ago, on this date, I and Mr. Desai had met Rakesh Sharma in Sri Lanka. So that's very important for me. Thank you very much for Mr. Desai. Where is he? He's there. So thank you very much for your and photograph. He has just shared again a photograph with me. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude by saying that in case the market is ready, the instrument is ready, the technology is ready, and as they say in David Copperfield, Balkis is also willing, so why not get into the marriage fast? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much, sir, for impactful word. Now I invite Mr. Dutt to please come on stage and please present a memento to our keynote speaker.
That's a privilege.
A round of applause for keynote speaker, Mr. J.N. Bajpai. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, thank you. Please be seated, sir.
Thank you very much.
Now I invite Shri Pramod Rao, Executive Director, SEBI, on the dais, please. Shri Rao is an Executive Director at SEBI, handling Corporation Finance Department, Department of Debt and Hybrid Securities, and Interregulatory Interface Group of Department of Economics and Policy Analysis. He is a member of IFSCO Authority, National Financial Reporting Authority, Interregulatory Technical Group, and Early Warning Group, constituted by Subcommittee of Financial Stability and Development Council, a member of Board of Governors of IICA, a member of Committee of Issuer Accounting, Audit and Disclosure of IOSCO, and a member of Advisory Council of the IFRS Foundation. At SEBI, he has previously handled inquiries and adjudication department and quasi-judicial cell, enforcement department, and was a quasi-judicial authority and a member of assessment committee of IOSCO. Now I invite Shri Rao on the dais, please. A round of applause.
Good afternoon to all of you. I'm quite grateful to the Bombay Chambers and the person missing in action, Mr. Ashit Kampani, Mr. Khosla, and of course all of the folks from Bombay Chambers and the members here. It's a tough act to follow Mr. Bajpai, who's already laid expectation at a particular level. So I must also give some key messages which I feel is warranted to deal with the situations. I will break it up into maybe three parts of remarks. I think one, that tokenization is so nascent a stage that we hyphenate it with the regulated product is the first word of caution that I want to draw, right? To my mind, we need to de-hyphenate regulated products from unregulated products. And today, tokenization in the domestic market most certainly is unregulated. There are various things which a regulated product brings to the market. I would say it is due diligence, it is looking at fit and proper of the people who bring such products, and so on. Equally, when, for instance, a REIT or a SM REIT units are offered to the market, there is a merchant banker which does a due diligence behind what is comprised in the asset, and so on. So each of that, to my mind, is a very different thing from what is projected as tokenization. So I looked at the literature Bombay Chambers had put also. So suddenly not just REIT, I also came across RET, real estate tokenization. So my caution would be, please don't hyphenate unregulated and regulated products. They are two different things, and they need to have assessment which follows accordingly. To me, it is akin to equating banks and NBFCs which are regulated by RBI with, I don't know, a money lender. At some level, they are very different set of people, maybe doing the same business, which is lending money, but clearly require this kind of analysis. In search for legitimacy, and which is what I would say the entrepreneurs around tokenization are probably doing, this sort of equating, I think, becomes an innate desire. So I'm just saying, please don't do that. Please engage with us, because we are happy to facilitate and then figure out what's the right way of introducing a product into the market. On tokenization, I will continue to sort of put out two key items. I think rightly, as Mr. Bajpai observed, we do have a IFSCA consultation paper that was floated for tokenization of real world assets. This was floated towards the end of January. Its consultation period got extended right up to April end. There is a lot of interest and feedback that has flown into IFSCA for that. I am a board member at IFSCA, so at some level, that part of the experiment is also what I'm keenly observing and wanting to see how we give shape to it. But there are two elements which I would call out for IFSCA. I think one, that it will deal with overseas real estate assets or overseas real world assets, right? It will not deal with Indian assets. That's because IFSCA is constituted as a foreign jurisdiction and meant to sort of deal on those lines. Secondly, it will have what I call a foreign currency denomination. So it won't necessarily be Indian rupees and so on. It's not that Indians can't participate. If you have a LRS mechanism, I'm sure you can sort of go ahead and do that, as and when IFSCA establishes that regime. What IFSCA has done also, and which is really good, is that they've created a sandbox where actually we are seeing 2 or 3 such tokenized players sort of be there. In fact, just at the board meeting yesterday, we have approved of a framework which sort of allows people who are ancillary providers to the ecosystem, which includes people who provide tokenization solutions as well, coming forward and getting registered with IFSCA. So there is indeed both thought and how we are doing it. I look at IFSCA and what it is doing on tokenization as really it will offer us lessons in the domestic market as to what are those lessons, how is it that virtual assets are both created, how are they circulating, who are the investors, what's their risk appetite, and so on. And I think it gives us a small zone where we can understand that and then imbibe. So it's not that it is out of reach, but it is certainly a distance away because as they will frame their draft regulations, they will consult, they will put it into operation, I think there will be a degree of time. And then for us to draw lessons from that will again obviously take a little more longer. The other which I want to call out, and I'm sure the technologists or the entrepreneurs who are already in tokenization probably know this, but I wanted to sort of share that as a thought for this audience, which is that we normally, when we are creating various instruments, asset institutions, etc., we look at pooling as the best way of safeguarding investors. So if you have to think about a mutual fund, it's pooling different investors with probably the same scheme objective into having a fund manager who directs their application of funds. When you think about a REIT or a SM REIT or an InvIT, it is really again aggregation of different investors into a pooled vehicle which owns these assets. If I had to talk about securitization, the securitized debt instrument is again sort of pooling or representing a pool of what is underlying in a securitization transaction. In a token, by contrast, I would argue that it can take ownership interest to the most divisible level of an asset, right? That's the virtue or that's the sort of thing which a token does. And what it then does, when you take it to the most divisible piece of that asset, is that the risk or reward is exactly for that divisible interest. In contrast to, like I said, in a mutual fund where you are undivided interest holder of everything which the scheme owns, here you are only owning that least divisible piece, so as to speak. So I'll take an example and use it to illustrate this point. A whole parking lot could be in a REIT or a SM REIT, right? You therefore have the ebbs and flows of that traffic which is using that parking lot as a return for those which are investors in a REIT or SM REIT. Now the same parking lot, if it is tokenized, so each parking spot is represented by a token. Now you have the risk of whether the token you purchased, whether that spot has been used or not for parking, right? So suddenly you are away from a pooled vehicle into actually taking a risk of what is happening for that particular divisible piece which exists. To my mind, I'm not trying to dissuade you from adopting tokenization. But what I'm trying to say is that risk is now a very different risk from a pooled vehicle, right? Where you would have shared all the risk and reward of that parking lot together with whoever else are investors along with you. Now suddenly you have to care about, is my lot located in a manner that it will get utilized? Is that what is actually got somebody parking on it or not, right? And therefore those who offer these kind of tokenizations have to then think about what level of comfort will they offer to investors who are in such tokenized asset as to what is the protection they are afforded. What if, the parking lot attendant keeps directing people away from the one you have purchased, right? Keeps it vacant. Now, you are not going to get a return because that particular lot is not really getting used. So again, I'm using it to illustrate what a pooled vehicle, which a REIT or SM REIT or InvITs do, or for that matter, other vehicles like mutual funds or SDIs, like I mentioned, as opposed to a tokenized asset. To me, I think what it will take to evolve really has got to be around the principles of embedded rights, responsibilities, the risk and rewards that these tokens will confer or create, and to the extent that, again, like I mentioned at this stage, in the domestic market, they remain unregulated. So really, those are what the investors must evaluate as they look at these kind of assets. Switching gears to both what we have created as structures for InvITs and REITs and SM REITs. Indeed, like Mr. Bajpai said, I stand on the shoulders of all our predecessors. So whether it was real estate mutual fund schemes, which were dedicated in a way meant to create REITs, which really didn't, as Mr. Bajpai said, take off. But what we finally came to also required a lot of revamp to our regulation. So while it got introduced in 2014, the first of them actually came around 2017-18 as an InvIT, and thereafter followed a year later by a REIT. Again, the growth has been very astounding for us. We've ended up seeing a lot more of InvITs rather than REITs. I'm hoping that will change, and that should change equally with the SM REIT. I'll dwell on that in a minute. What we have ended up doing, I feel, is addressing 3 different cohorts of both sponsors, asset types, and so on, in creating the 3 different regimes, as it were, for InvITs, REITs, and SM REITs. InvITs, by a large part of the definition, I would say, is that they are concession-based. They are usually where the central government or the state governments have granted a concession for a period of time, and therefore, by design, may have a limited life in terms of the asset that they own. The sponsors who acquire these or the sponsors who create these under the concession agreements, therefore have that as a clock running against them. Again, there are InvITs which have gone on a growth path, so they keep recycling, keep raising fresh funds, and adding. So therefore, their extended life keeps, their life keeps getting extended, so as to speak. So that is something to connote, I would say, InvITs. REITs, by contrast, are indeed perpetual in terms of whether they have bought a freehold land and therefore are owning and leasing out the premises which are erected on them. There could be, again, examples of leasehold land as well, and in which case, again, it runs into that there will be a limited life at some point in time. But by and large, I think the REITs have preferred to buy freehold and therefore having, in a way, a perpetual existence for the period that they own these lands. SM REITs, and which we realized was a regulatory gap because we began both REITs and InvITs at a threshold of asset value of 500 crores or more. We sort of realized that there were fractional real estate platforms which came along, which were fulfilling a different kind of need, maybe assets which were smaller, where people did want concentrated exposure as opposed to a diversified commercial real estate exposure which REITs offered or other infrastructure assets that InvITs offered. And these, at some level for us, became where we wanted to make sure that we consulted the industry, we engaged with all the fractional ownership platforms, we created a regime which I thought is indeed quite conducive to making sure that we created both a sense of comfort for investors coming in, but equally for those who were establishing such platforms in being able to operate. I'm happy to report we have as many as about 5 registered investment managers on this front. One of them has actually launched schemes and in fact is in advanced stages of a second offering. We are waiting for others to come on stream as quickly as possible. But to me, this is really an area where I expect a lot more assets to get recycled, to get housed, and to be made available to investors. Even as we go forward on both the REITs, SM REITs, InvITs, I think the challenge which I would offer and which I think tokenization offers, which indeed the financial regulated ecosystem has to rise to, is programmability. I think that's one thing which tokens sort of have. how do we bridge it within the regulated financial ecosystem, would be programmability that depositories can bring. So really, like Mr. Bajpai said, you hold all of your assets in the securities market in your demat accounts. There is an entry, it is an electronic entry, you need not have physical certificates, you need not have other mechanisms of asset ownership other than that demat account entry. Now, if the depository system rides on electronic rails, to my mind, to actually create APIs, to actually create a programmability is not actually far from thought. So whether it is a if-then scenario, can you pledge? Today you can do it in the depository system any which ways. Can they create APIs which sort of allow that to happen at the touch of a button or a click of a screen? I think all of that is within reach. So to my mind, that programmability can actually offer both a contrast to what tokenization is doing, but doing so, like I said, in a pooled instrument, right? And that may be the choice that the investors should have of understanding what is it that a regulated ecosystem can offer them versus what is not regulated. To me, the growth of REITs, InvITs, and so on has been dramatic. We are now at maybe crossing 8 lakh crores in assets under management. To me, I always contrast this number with the total AUM of AIFs, which is probably in invested assets about 5 lakh crores. So you can already see that REITs and InvITs have overtaken what is alternative investment funds corpus. Can it grow places? I think it can. I would sort of say there are 3 big opportunities which lie for those operating REITs, InvITs, and SM REITs. I think one would be the monetization that the government can do, whether the state or the center. Center has already done so in terms of power grid, in terms of power transmission lines, but also highways. The National Highway Authority uses an InvIT structure for a lot of its monetization. Can the same be done by state governments? I would say yes, why not? They are fully capable, they have similar assets. Some of them may in fact be completely owned by unlisted entities. So in a way, the competition of trying to figure out asset value may be far easier to discover in an InvIT structure by them. Similarly, I would argue that municipal assets can also be subject to what can come inside REITs and InvITs. When they own certain assets which are otherwise long-term holdings for them, monetizing it gives them an opportunity of recycling that money and creating fresh new assets. So that to me is another sort of thing which can attract a lot of assets into this space. I think the third would be corporate sector itself. If I had to think of, I don't know, a bank which has 5,000 branches or 10,000 branches, a portion of it is what they own directly. Is that portion capable of coming inside REITs or SM REITs? To me, that kind of monetization is also not beyond reach. And again, they don't have to lose control. They can exchange those assets for units, derive therefore economic value, which others are also attaching as much as they have, and sign up long-term contracts. I'm sure there will be tax and finance experts who will reach some sort of equation at which it makes sense, both in terms of the capital gains tax they may have to pay for flipping these assets. But like I said, if you exchange them for units, you actually have a tax-free sort of mechanism. So to me, corporates would be the third sort of cohort which can exploit and use monetization. We've seen that being done on InvIT side, but I think REITs and SM REITs can certainly add to it. I'll add one other element which happened between the time that we amended our REIT regulations to introduce SM REITs and today. One of the feedback we got in our outreach and workshops was that there are underlying assets, real estate assets, which underpin a lot of infrastructure. So imagine a hospital or imagine a sports stadium and so on. And the question was, could these assets not be held in a SM REIT? And frankly, we saw the logic of it. We amended our REIT and InvIT regulations to sort of say, yes, these underlying real estate assets can also be, even though they were otherwise in the infrastructure list, be owned by REITs and SM REITs. They cannot become operators of that infrastructure. That, of course, still continues to remain outside the realm of what a REIT or SM REIT can do. But to me, these are indeed the opportunities that I believe both are available and which I would call upon both the sector, people who are engaged in whether creation of infrastructure, real estate, owners of many of these, to sort of harness it. To conclude, like I said, we remain open. We will watch the IFSCA experiment as it takes shape. To us, as that informs us, is when we will take the next leap, so as to speak. With that, let me thank again Bombay Chambers and for this opportunity to present before you. Thank you.